So, hi everyone. You can hear already from my voice that it's the end of day as well for a full day of teaching from my side. I'm quickly going to share my screen. So today, as a last speaker, here we go. Up. I wanted to share with you the impact of microaggressions on meritocracy. And actually, in microaggressions, it's a topic that is close to my heart because it's my PhD topic and I'm in the last phase. So for today, I thought let's share some of the research that I've done, but also share as well great research that's been out there. And you see it in my title, it's about how microaggressions silently sabotage the game. And I really want to show you how these little insidious remarks can have quite a big systemic impact. And for today, I thought, well, I'm going to look for some numbers. And when we look at the numbers, we see that microaggressions is quite a high prevalence. So just on a global level, we saw that 61% of people experienced already one microaggression weekly. And the topics that came up mostly were gender, race, ethnicity, and age. And this is a number that we also confirmed in our study where we had more than 1,000 people participating. And when I looked on other literature, we see that this number comes quite a lot. So it means that in your workforce and your colleagues, 6 out of 10 of those people have already encountered those little comments that could be around your gender, your age, it could be your parenthood as well, your sexual orientation, your disability, how you speak. Well, I'm in Belgium, so we have a huge microaggressions when people don't speak Dutch. Um, Ethnicity as well, religion, and all of these are little microaggressions. I have collected over the past 5 years a database of, well, more than 3,000 different microaggressions. And so for today, I thought, well, I'm just going to show you a short snapshot. But these are all little comments. And when I'm in front of an audience, I always let this pause here to see, are these comments that you've encountered yourself? And most of the time when I'm in front of audiences, I've always people who raise their hands. It's most of the people already heard them themselves, maybe not experienced themselves, maybe heard, overheard as well, seen on the news, seen during meetings, seen when they were walking with their families. We have soon coming Thanksgiving in the States, but we also have in Europe all the Christmas holidays that are coming up. We also have all the other festivities. So maybe at your table, an aunt, an uncle could also make these kind of comments. And why am I saying this? It's because we've already been guilty ourselves most of the time of already making such a comment. So this is a comment that it's really driven out of stereotypes, out of how society is being structured. And they just pop up and we say this is actually an output of unconscious bias. Just to be very clear about what we're talking today, it's about microaggressions. So these are everyday remarks. What's very typical of a microaggression is that the harm, it's not in the severity of the comment, but it's in how many times have you already heard that comment in the same day. So it's in the chronicity that lies the harm. While the other two, when we look at harassment and assault, well, it's really a severe comment. And it's most of the time one person doing this to other people, while with microaggressions, it's one person receiving it from a multiple types of sources. It's a big difference. Also, the intention is different. A microaggression is most of the time done out of good intentions, it's done out of ignorance, it's done out of stereotypes. It was not meant to hurt. We generally thought it was going to be a compliment. We generally thought it was a funny joke. We didn't think that maybe asking where you're really from was a sign of stereotypes, but more a sign of curiosity. While harassment and assault, it's really done to hurt. But can you see there is a difference in the concept? And so it also means the way that we look at microaggressions and the way that we have to handle them, um, they're completely different than harassment and assault. Where do they come from? So when we look at where microaggressions come from, like I said, it really is a sign of the stereotypes that we have as a society. It also means that the nature of a microaggressions is going to be different depending on the region that we are in. For instance, I'm based here in Brussels, in Belgium, so it means that the types of microaggressions that we have here are different than the ones that we encounter in the States, or when we could encounter in the APEC region, or that we could even encounter in Italy. There are some that are very clearly the same, and those are the ones that I've shown you. It's about gender, it's about ethnicity, it's about age, but the literal content that's in it could be different. And for instance, in Belgium, what we've seen is that language was a big one, while we see in the UK, for instance, there we saw it was about accent. So having a different kind of accent was also a type of microaggression. And so it's really a sign of systemic inequalities. Microaggressions is actually a sign of, about who should hold which kind of position and which kind of power in an organization or in society. And it's a sign of surprise. It's like someone like you sitting in this position, that's weird. Someone like you, I would have never expected that you would just be from here. So it's really a sign of the social inequalities that we have can also come out of fear and uncertainty because we have never worked with someone. So we just assume certain things. We think, oh, yes, Bert is a German, so they will always act like this. And so, based on the stereotypes, based about fear, because we don't know what to do, we see that microaggressions pop up more and more. It could also be a sign of privilege, of a power, and most of the time, it's done of lack of awareness. This is also to show you that when we talk about microaggressions, most of the time we deal it about as an interrelational problem. So what do I mean with this? It's me, I receive something from someone else. However, what I want you to show you here, this is a systemic issue. This is something that's so ingrained in how we talk to people, how we treat people, that the way that we need to handle microaggressions, it's also on the systemic level. And I'm going to show you why. Because what we've done in our study is to link not only, okay, what are microaggressions and what types do they experience, we also wanted to look at the impact on an organizational level. And so what do we see? I find it quite striking. We had 90% of our sample saying that they don't speak up when they encountered a microaggression. They were either too scared to speak up, to be seen as a difficult one, to be seen as the too woke one, to be seen as the one who could not handle the joke, but also people who were just completely shocked that said, I literally had no clue what to say or do in that moment. And we had actually 55% of a sample saying, it was my manager. What am I going to do when it's my manager or a senior manager actually making that comment? When I have to go to organizations, I always show them as well the 70%, because we saw that people that worked in organizations where microaggressions were a recurrent thing and they were never handled, those people left the organization. So we had 70% of people who encountered microaggressions on a daily basis. They said, I just left that environment. It was an exclusive work environment. And some people even went to, it was just a toxic work culture. They didn't appreciate my strengths, my ideas, my talents. They just reduced me to my identity, to a stereotype. And so when I show you this, for me, it's also quite clear why, if we don't create an environment where we can talk about microaggressions, microaggressions will always happen, unfortunately. But if I don't feel empowered to say, this was not a fun joke, and if someone else doesn't acknowledge my reality, but rebuffs me by saying, again, you are being oversensitive, we will have a big impact actually on the meritocracy that we're going to create. Because what we're actually doing is that we are reducing people to their identity. So we're constantly questioning their competences. A second effect that we are actually going to create is that people are staying into the positions and they can't enter networks where the important decisions are being made. I had someone telling me, Delia, I'm not going to apply for a certain position because where I am, I'm very comfortable. But when I'm going to move up, I'm sure that they're going to make comments about who I am, how I dress, how I think. And I don't feel like it. So I'm going to stay here in my comfort zone. Another thing is if we're going to silence voices, when we silence people, we also start silencing their engagement, their good ideas. And so if we have that diverse environment, but we don't actually value diverse perspectives, we are not using all of those diverse ideas. We're not using that potential. And so what do we then see is that it really breaks meritocracy, especially because we don't get the right feedback and people start wasting their energy on navigating all those microaggressions, and it takes up a massive amount of cognitive load instead of contributing, instead of thinking about new way things, instead of just coming with joy to work. We've seen in studies that indeed, just when we look at these were brain studies, and we've seen that people, when they think that they will encounter microaggressions, a massive amount of their brain space is literally into a scanning mode of looking, is there going to be a microaggression happening? Will someone make a comment? And so instead of focusing on what's being said in the meeting, we're actually preparing of what's coming next. And that is, for me, the biggest danger, of course, when we're going to talk about meritocracy, because we are reducing people not based on their competences or what they can do, reduce them to their identity, one. Second, we silence them. And third, we don't create a safe environment for people to thrive in. So I think I'm just on time. And this is a quote that I really enjoy, is when I showed you that 61% of people experience this, it also means that we are holding back 61% of our workforce. So perfect on time.